In July 1941, the Soka Kyuku Gakkai launched a new journal titled Kachi Sozo Value Creation, issue number 5, which came out in December of that year. The same month, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, featured an article titled Religious Reform is Not Difficult. Following ideologies of uncertain origin that cannot be substantiated by actual proof, even if they may be the most time honored tradition, and thereby sacrificing our own and others' precious lives, must be strictly repudiated. It is on this point that the question of compulsory worship at Shinto shrines must be re examined with pressing urgency. As Japan was embarked on war in the Pacific, Makiguchi courageously strove to correct the error of state Shinto, which the government had set up as the nation's spiritual pillar to rally support for its war efforts. State Shinto viewed Japan as a land of the living man god, the emperor. Such a belief inevitably contradicts universal values of humanity and the spirit of democracy. Not only does it nurture the idea that the Japanese are a special or chosen people, it also breeds discrimination towards people of other countries and races. This view was largely responsible for creating a spiritual climate that supported the drive to war. Ideologies and religions that nurture a sense of superiority over others and proceed to justify such discrimination are truly to be feared. Sunesaburo Makiguchi and his disciple and successor Josei Toda also turned their attention to this point. As a result, the Soka Kyuku Gakkai raised the banner of religious reform while thought control was intensifying daily and the winds of militarism raged fiercely throughout the country. Willing to lay down his life if necessary, Makiguchi refuted the position of state Shinto as a spiritual axle leading the entire nation to war and spoke out against its grave error. He also boldly refused to worship the Shinto talisman dedicated to the sun goddess, the leading tutelary god of that faith. Naturally, President Makiguchi was tailed by the members of the secret higher police. They also attended his meetings and on occasion ordered him to stop speaking. But Makiguchi was fearless. Worried that his nation was headed towards ruin, he continued to appeal loudly for reform in the realms of thought and religion, areas so fundamental to illuminating the darkness of the age with the light of peace. Because of these activities, both Makiguchi and Toda were arrested on July 6, 1943 on the charges of lese majeste as well as alleged violation of the peace preservation law. The government could not tolerate a religion that existed to benefit ordinary people. Nevertheless, Makiguchi did not retreat a single step. Even in the interrogation room, he declared, "The emperor is just an ordinary person. When he was crown prince, he attended Gakushuin University and gained the learning that would be required of him to perform his duties as emperor. Nor is the emperor infallible. He was explicitly rejecting the notion that the emperor was a living god. On November 18th, 1944, Makiguchi died in prison due to malnutrition and the toll of his incarceration that had taken on his aged body. Even if it seems that because I was born in the ruler's domain, I follow him in my actions. Nichiren Daishonin remarked, I will never follow him in my heart. To the end of his life, Makiguchi made his spirit his own, this spirit his own, still resolutely upholding the flag of human dignity in an era when human lives were utterly devalued and trampled underfoot. The sky over Rangoon blazed with the crimson glow of sunset. After standing for a while before the monument to fallen soldiers, Shinichi Yamamoto chanted Daimaku again 3 times, then quietly moved on. A pleasant breeze blew, and the lingering rays of sunlight that streamed through the tree branches colored his face. Shinichi stopped for a moment and gazed at the brilliant redness of the setting sun. My brother was here in Burma, Shinichi thought. He too must have seen this sunset. Times changed and history continued its dramatic surge forward. But the sun was always constant. It continued to shed its light serenely and equally upon the entire world. The war was over, Shinichi thought. Almost 15 years had passed, but the world's peoples still suffered amid the flames of the war. The post war world was divided by conflicting ideologies, giving rise to a firmly entrenched Cold War. This sort of rivalry had been transported to Asia too, where more than a few countries were falling victim to the tragedies of war and internal conflict. The time had surely come for humankind to shift its focus from nations to human beings, to an awareness that we are all inhabitants of one world, members of the same global family. Towards this end, a philosophy of life itself was needed, a philosophy that respected human diversity, strove for harmony and accord among people, and was capable of bringing all humanity together. It was also vital that people refuse to allow themselves to be enslaved by the authority of any nation or particular group and instead forge a solid and invincible sense of self. Each individual would also have to break through his or her own egoism, overcome discrimination and prejudice, and make the precious light of humanity shine from within. Essential, in short, was the process of human revolution, of individual self improvement and perfection. It was Buddhism that revealed the fundamental principles for accomplishing this. Kosun Rufu meant creating an age of human revitalization, of human renaissance through Buddhism. This is what would cause the light of genuine peace to shine. Shinichi at this moment felt profoundly aware of the mission to which he must devote himself, to go forth throughout Asia for the goal of peace. The goal was distant, and the journey to accomplish it imposing in magnitude. But he had to achieve it. This would be the constant and inescapable theme of his life. He began to think earnestly about what steps he must take in this direction. Shinichi and his companions then went sightseeing around Rangoon. The Shwedagon pagoda gleamed golden in the light of sunset. As he walked around the city, memories of his late brother came rushing back to him one after another. Whenever Shinichi thought of his brother who had died in Burma, he was reminded of Harp of Burma, a novel by Michio Takeyama. It is the story of a Japanese soldier who decides to become a Buddhist monk and remain in Burma after the war to dedicate the rest of his life to tending to the graves of his fallen comrades and offering prayers for the repose of their spirits.